Hey there. Today, we're jumping into one of the biggest, most personal questions anyone can ask. What exactly is consciousness? Is everything you experience, your thoughts, your feelings, your sense of self, is it all just happening inside your brain? Let's get into it.
So let's start with a question, just for you, right now. How are you actually involved in your own thoughts? Are you the one actively directing the traffic in your head? Or does it feel more like you're just a passenger, watching the thoughts go by? Just think about that for a second.
And let's get a little more specific. That voice inside your head, the one that's probably commenting on what I'm saying right now, what's it like? Is it calm? Is it chaotic? Maybe a little critical? We all have this inner narrator, but it's pretty rare that we stop and actually listen to it.
Okay, this is where it gets really weird. If there's a voice talking, who is listening? Who is the you that's hearing these internal words? This is the absolute core of the mystery, the puzzle of the self, that we're going to try and unpack.
All right, so let's start with that voice. It isn't just some philosophical idea. It's a real, documented thing happening in your brain. And believe it or not, science actually has a name for it. And it turns out it's doing some serious heavy lifting for us. It's called inner speech. Essentially, this is your brain using its language centers, a key part is called Broca's area, to have a silent conversation with itself. So it's not just your imagination, it's a genuine cognitive process. Your brain is literally talking to itself all the time.
And this inner speech is absolutely crucial. It's how we plan for the future, right? You run through different scenarios in your mind. It's also fundamental to building our own self-awareness, our idea of who we are. And maybe most importantly, it's how we control our emotions. When you have to talk yourself down from being angry or anxious, that's inner speech at work.
But here's the giant catch. Science can describe the mechanism. We can see which parts of the brain light up on a scan. What it absolutely cannot explain is the subjective feeling of it all. It doesn't tell us why it feels like there's a me at the center of this experience. And that right there is the mystery.
So this leads us to that classic comparison you've probably heard before. Is your brain just a really complicated biological computer? Well, let's take a look at why that idea kind of falls apart.
When you put them side by side, the difference is just staggering. A machine follows its code. The human brain, it creates completely new ideas out of thin air. But the real game changer, the one thing that separates them completely, is that last line. The brain is conscious. It has an experience. There is a self in there. And no machine we've ever built has anything even close to that.
So how can we be the observer of our own thoughts? Well, there's a great scientific term for this, metacognition. It literally means thinking about thinking. It's that moment you catch yourself daydreaming and think, whoa, where did my mind just go? It's like you can step back and watch the movie of your own mind playing out.
And that ability brings us face to face with what philosophers call the hard problem of consciousness. To really get why it's such a monster of a problem, you first have to appreciate the sheer mind-boggling scale of what's going on inside your head.
Just look at that number, 86 billion. That's how many neurons are estimated to be in your brain, and they are firing away, constantly, creating a storm of electrical activity. It's a network so complex it's almost impossible to comprehend. And somewhere, in the middle of all that beautiful chaos, is you.
So are we going to solve this anytime soon? Well, this timeline gives you a bit of perspective. Right now, massive projects are just starting to map the brain's basic wiring. Best guess, it could be 100, maybe 200 years before we have a complete functional map. We are at the very beginning of this journey.
Okay, so if a complete map is that far away, what are scientists even doing right now? Well, there are a few major ideas competing at the frontier of science, and each one points to a very different answer for what consciousness could be.
Basically, it breaks down into three camps. First, you have the emergent property idea. This says consciousness just sort of happens when a system gets complex enough. If that's right, we don't need new science, just way more data. Then there's the new physics camp. They argue our current understanding of reality is just incomplete. And finally, there's the philosophical view, that maybe, just maybe, consciousness is beyond what science can ever measure.
So after all of that, the neuroscience, the huge numbers, the competing theories, we find ourselves right back where we started, with the personal, profound mystery that each of us is living inside every single moment.
So here's a little experiment for you. The next time you catch your mind racing, Just for a second, try to use that metacognition we talked about. Hit pause and ask yourself, where did that last thought actually come from? Did I choose to think it, or did it just show up?
Which, of course, leads to the big and kinda unsettling final question. When you really start to watch your own mind, the thoughts, that inner voice, you can't help but wonder, who's really in charge up there?
You know, it's pretty incredible to think that the deepest mystery in the entire universe might not be out in the stars, but right behind your own eyes. And if that's true, the people who eventually solve it are just the ones who stay curious, the ones who keep asking these questions. So, why not you? Thanks for diving into this with me.